We're pre-recording, so anything that happens after the 7th of August, we won't have covered. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Enjoy the show.
What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to the fourth of our 5 preview shows here on ForTheFans for the Premier League season. Unfortunately, Ben hasn't been well and he's currently out of the country, so I'm graced with the presence of Kino as we're going to be reviewing QPR, Southampton, Stoke City and Sunderland's credentials this Premier League season. Let's get straight into this. We are back, guys. Now, this is preview show 4. Normally Ben does this bit, so I kind of feel like I'm out of character here, but he is abroad in France. We were meant to record these last 2 preview shows a few days ago, but he wasn't very well. As a result, I've got my substitute in Kino. How are you doing, sir?
Hello. Good afternoon, Jack.
Friend of the show. You're back again. You've been a guest during the World Cup. Now you're back for the main thing.
Well, I'm here to step in when needed. You know, do a bit of work in and around, as they say.
Right.
So while Ben's swanning it around in France, I'll be here to take care of matters.
Right, so we're going to start with QPR. Now, I know that the first thing you said when you saw QPR was they've not made many signings, but they've made some good signings. So what do you make of the 3 acquisitions they've made this year?
Well, that was precisely what I said to you before. Like they've made probably one of the lowest amounts. They've only brought 3 in: Ferdinand Kulka and Jordan Much. I kind of prefer the way that they've gone about this because they haven't signed a lot of players, which is quite unusual for QPR. Yeah. But they've made 3 fairly solid signings. Ferdinand probably won't play that much, you'd think, but I think for a newly promoted team, that amount of experience is really important.
Yeah, definitely. I think Kulka as well and Much. 2 interesting signings when you consider that they were both playing for Cardiff last year, who of course got relegated, but I think it'd be fair to say they were 2 of the kind of the standout players in that Cardiff side.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And Much was particularly impressive, actually.
Yeah, I think he surprised a lot of people in midfield, and he really stepped up last year. Kulka obviously only just moved to Cardiff last year, and they haven't actually disclosed, I don't believe, how much he's gone to QPR for, so I'd be interested to know if they took much of a hit on his sale to QPR. But it was funny how you mentioned about QPR having not made as many signings as you'd expect a newly promoted QPR team to do. Obviously they may well have learnt from last time, but on the outs you actually see a lot of the players who were brought in and who were kind of dead wood from that previous Premier League campaign a few seasons ago, leaving the team kind of players like Mbia, Andrew Johnson, Luke Young, Angelo Balanta, Ben Ayoun, Granero as well. Granero, I always felt like he had something to offer them, so I'm kind of surprised they let him go, but he's gone to Sociedad. I'm
not quite sure he fit with the Harry Redknapp sort of style of play and the system that he likes to play 2 in the middle. I don't think he's really kind of box-to-box enough to work with that. Whereas Jordan Much is the kind of player that he'd like.
Yeah, I think he's a very good engine in the midfield, and he's proven himself at a Premier League level, be it with a rather weak and disappointing Cardiff side. What do you think of them then at QPR as a team as a whole? Because of course they got promoted last year via the playoffs, via Bobby Zamora goal. It was the only shot on target for the team. Came in the last 10 minutes against Derby. So many people raising a few questions over, is this team what it looks like on paper in terms of the actual quality? Because of course QPR were one of the favourites to get automatic promotion last year, and so to go via the playoffs was disappointing in itself, never mind perhaps to do it in the manner that they did. So going into this season, obviously it's not always the case that the teams who finish top of the Championship are the ones that are safe. Do you think QPR are going to be in amongst the pigeons, so to say, in that relegation dogfight?
Well, I actually think they've probably got the highest chance of staying up out of the 3. I think, because I haven't heard, obviously, what you said about Burnley or Leicester yet.
Yeah.
But, for me, I think Burnley would probably be the most likely to be lower down if we're kind of talking who will finish higher. I think QPR will probably finish the highest. Although that season that they had, not last year, the year before, was kind of quite a messy, disastrous one, I think that might actually stand them in quite good stead, especially some of the players that are still there. And we talked about the signings. They made 3 solid signings. They've got a strong squad already. We know that. They've always got funds to strengthen. So I think they probably, although they came up quite sort of scrappily through the playoffs, I don't really think that will matter too much. And for me, I think they've probably got the best chance of staying.
I was going to say, you look through their team, they've got players like Charlie Austin, who proved himself last year in the Championship. Much like Danny Ings and David Nugent, there's going to be a real emphasis on him to bang in the goals for a newly promoted QPR.
It'll be very interesting to see, like you probably said about Nugent and Ings, those 3 English strikers, see how they work in the Premier League. Because they've been 3 of the best sort of lower league strikers for quite a few years now, so to see them in the Premier League.
It's weird, me and Ben talked a little bit about it, how it's kind of, it always feels like maybe 1 in 4 Championship strikers really makes that step up.
And we've got 3 of them at once, so maybe 1 will.
But you look further back in QPR's team, they've got players like Joey Barton, who, whilst he is a bit of a controversial figure, I don't think he's a bad player for them to have. I feel as if he's certainly reined himself in recent years. Richard Dunn as well. They've got some good experience.
Yeah, ex-Villa. I think actually, we're just quite, so much has been said about Joey Barton. I think he is a really good player for them in terms of just the solidity that he offers in the middle. Very experienced. He's been there, and although he does, tweet a lot and things like that, if Redknapp can keep him on the straight and narrow throughout the season, he'll be very important for their survival effort.
Right, so we shouldn't get bogged too much in QPR because we have got 3 S's to cover now. Southampton, let's talk about them. Koeman's team finished 8th last year. It's kind of a weird contrast, isn't it, to the QPR team? In many ways, you talk about QPR making smart signings. I actually think Southampton maybe have made a few smart signings, but they've paid a lot of money for what they have brought in, and they've sold so much more. It's such a bizarre situation. Like, quite what's going on there? Are they just a victim of their own success? Is there an agenda behind the board in terms of trying to recoup some of the money? Obviously, they have made the signing today as we record this of Fraser Forster, I believe, has been confirmed now. So that is maybe lessen the worries, perhaps. Although you look outfield, they're still looking rather bare, particularly maybe at the back where they've lost 3 of their starting 4 from last year, really.
Well, this has been probably the biggest sort of transfer-based story of the summer, really, the exodus of Southampton. I don't really see how they're going to replace the core, the spine of the side that was so good last year. And also, I mean, this isn't on the list of transfers that we're looking at right now, but Pochettino is probably the biggest loss to that side. The philosophy that he sort of instilled in the team and the way he got them playing. I agree with what you said about them spending a lot of money. I think Forster was, it says undisclosed, but 10 million, I think.
Yeah, they've said 10 million.
That's quite steep for a keeper. Especially one who hasn't played much in the Premier League. I know he's quite a good talent. We've also brought in Ryan Bertrand as well. But yeah, they're going to really struggle next year, I think. And that's quite obvious.
They've got Graziano Pelle from Feyenoord, and that's not been revealed how much they spent on him either. But he's had 2 very good years in the Dutch Premier League. I think he got about 30 goals across the 2 years, which obviously is not crazy, but he's proven to score in a European league. And you look at the departures they've lost, they've been maybe a little bit lucky in some ways that they've been able to hold on to the occasional midfielder. You kind of look at your players like Gaston Ramirez, who I think is going to be really important for them now.
Schneiderlin as well.
And Schneiderlin.
They've really got to try and hang on to him because I think he was quite a unsung hero of that side last year. While you were talking about Pele, actually, the Dutch league, although it's not one of the bigger leagues in Europe, you do see like Wilfred Bonny, in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
it's a more kind of physical league, and it's for a centre forward coming over. I think it does playing in the Dutch league does prepare a striker quite well for playing in the Premier League, so it could be interesting to see if he can sort of do what Bonny's done, because it's.
I was going to say Pele is very well known for his ability in the air in Holland, and so it's going to be intriguing, I guess, to see if they kind of try and replace him like for like as a new Ricky Lambert. Of course, they've got players like Jade Rodriguez who they've been able to hold on to. He's a player who played down the middle a little bit last year, and I wonder if they'll kind of convert him to more of a pacey striker, maybe stick him alongside Pele this year. You mentioned the Bertrand loan signing from Chelsea. I think that's a good signing for all parties, but you look at the departures and the amount of money they've sold players for. Obviously, we've not really talked too much about the sales, but Callum Chambers went for 16 million to Arsenal, Shaw for 30 million.
in terms of players out, I think it was pushing 100 million for the amount of money that they've made all summer. So really that should be invested. But with the owners looking to sell, they might not want to spend a lot. There's a lot of instability around the club upstairs, so that will really affect the amount of money they're able to spend. I think Koeman's got a really difficult job on his hands.
I was going to say, I don't think they have the biggest squad either. I think they maybe are edging on 21 players. It's not, they've certainly not filled up all their reservation slots, and that's including a lot of youngsters. They've lost a few prospects, perhaps, who were really brought up in the Southampton philosophy. And you wonder, maybe this marks maybe a slightly different era for Southampton. They finished 8th last year. I think it's going to be a bit of a mission impossible for them to kind of match that this year. But they're going to really look. I think they're going to have to evolve as a team this year.
It's quite a sad sort of indictment on the way the Premier League works. That it happens in other leagues as well. But a team does so well. It has a bit of a breakout season, not the biggest in terms of they don't bring a huge amount of money in compared to the top 6 clubs. And then they just get picked apart one summer, and the whole squad has been decimated. And now they're, looking to try and stay in the Premier League if they can. It's quite a sad, just kind of reflection on how the Premier League works. But what can you do?
Right. So speaking of teams who have made a lot of sales, Stoke on the other side, they've only let 3 players go. I'm looking at the Stoke team. Not a lot's changed. Mark Hughes. I'm not a massive fan of Mark Hughes, I'm going to be honest. I've never really rated him as a manager, but last year he did get Stoke playing some nice football, and they actually got 9th place, and I think that went under the radar for a lot of people. I think there was a lot of fanfare about Brendan Rodgers, about Pulis's job at Crystal Palace. I actually think Mark Hughes was one of the best managers last year. I think he's really trying to spark a revolution at Stoke City. Stoke City, a team forever associated with mid-table hoofball football, really trying to play a little bit more ambitious. I believe, have they signed Bojan yet? Has that gone through?
Yeah, that's done. I agree about while we were just touching on Hughes. I totally agree. I think he did a really quietly good job of slowly beginning to turn Stoke into a bit more of a proactive team instead of just playing the reactive football that they did under Pulis. And like you said, they've not let a lot of people go. Moved on Everington, who was sort of, past his sell-by date really as a Premier League player. Kitely's gone to Burnley, who he'd spent time there before. And the people that they brought in, Maui Biram Diouf, you could say probably flopped at Man United, but that was probably too high a level. Steve Sidwell, Phil Bardsley, a lot of solid Premier League experience there. And then obviously the big signing is Bojan, which is quite a fall from grace, considering he's played for Barcelona, Ajax, Milan in the last 3 or 4 years. But for Stoke, it's great. For him, I'm not sure he would have planned his career as sort of going like that.
So, Stoke, going off the kind of actual transfers that have happened, I don't know if you've heard about the team who Stoke have been linked with throughout the summer, as of West Ham. But there's been a signing that I'm waiting to happen, and I almost hope it happens because it would be on level with kind of Mascherano and Tevez going to West Ham, and that is Ronaldinho has been linked with Stoke. He is a free agent at the moment, as far as I'm aware.
That's glorious. In the words of Ben, that would be glorious.
He has not found a club, so far as I'm aware. It was linked during July, I believe, that Ronaldinho might be good. I was thinking Ronaldinho and Bojan, blooming hell, Sparky Hughes really has got a revival going.
No. I mean, for those who don't know, I don't live that far away from the Potteries, and to know that Ronaldinho would be in the local area, that'd be excellent. I'd love that.
I mean, by the time this is up, it may have all completely flopped, but I just want to see it happen. Really, I think Stoke are going to have to qualify for Europe, I feel, to broaden their horizons. I think Bojan really shows that they have got some ambition now, but as you said, they've not spent massively. Really. No. So for Stoke, I think they'll get top half again this year. I think Mark Hughes, I think he proved himself last year that he has a philosophy, and Stoke as a football club proved that they have got a point to prove. I think they've made a few nice little signings without kind of reinventing the wheel. Bojan is certainly a step up from Matthew Everington. No disrespect to Mr. Everington, but truth hurts.
Players like Sidwell, Bardsley, just solid signings that kind of slightly strengthen the squad, keep them competitive, and add a bit of experience as well.
Yeah, so
just keep them going.
The last team, Sunderland. I don't know what to think of Sunderland. I don't think anyone knows what to think of Sunderland, because at the end of last year, they had an incredible run to keep themselves safe. And I've got to be honest, Gus Poyet, when he came in, I was shocked
that he'd just been appointed.
Yeah, I was shocked that he came in. I was also shocked with the job he did, and that might sound really horrible, but given kind of where he was coming from in terms of past experience, to me he didn't feel like the right man for the job, but he proved a lot of people wrong. And I look through the Sunderland signings, and they've let a few players go, but I wouldn't say any incredible players, like they're key players who they kind of build a team around. And then with the addition of players like Pantilimon, who when he played for Man City last year, and when he's played in and out, he's been impressive. Jack Rodwell as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then even Jordi Gomez, who I think had a fairly good spell at Wigan when he was in the Premier League playing for them. I actually really like the signings they've made.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see with Sunderland whether... you see teams do it a lot towards the end of the season where the pressure's on. Occasionally they'll flop, other times they'll put a run together. It'll be interesting to see whether that was just a flash in the pan, sort of spark of inspiration, or if, Poyet had actually turned it around, from about March onwards. And if they can carry that through to next season. I mean, you're right, they've certainly made... decent signings to back up that kind of idea. I agree about Gomez, actually. I think he was definitely one of Wigan's best players when they were in the Premier League. And although he spent 18 months in the Championship, I don't think that will really affect him too much. He's a good player, and will kind of give them a lot more spark going forward, an ability to create. And yeah, you said about Rodwell. What do you think about him?
Well, he's come out and said this week that he's been fit for the last 18 months.
Yeah, he was talking quite a lot about City.
He's run his mouth, hasn't he, in the press, saying that, basically warning young English players, don't go to Man City. Is Scott Sinclair still at Man City, or is he gone now?
No, he's still there. He was playing in pre-season.
I am surprised that he is. I mean, if he doesn't get a chance at Man City by Christmas, he's got to leave, surely. Scott Sinclair and Jack Rodwell are two players who... They're like the toys that Man City have forgotten about. They're on the top shelf, they've just kind of been tucked away, but they're new from Christmas. They've just never really been used. And they're good to go. And I think there's a grateful child in Sunderland who will be very happy to get their hands on Jack Rodwell this year.
Yeah, I mean, Sunderland took Johnson as well from City. So, yeah, that's where good English players go to revive their career at Sunderland.
For me, Jack Colback might be the big miss for Sunderland this year. Of all the players they lost, losing him on a free.
Yeah, I didn't see that, actually. It's across the across the Tyne to Newcastle. Yeah, it's an interesting signing. I thought he's always been quite consistent for them, and he doesn't really get a lot of plaudits or coverage in the media of his play. But he's been an ever-present for them.
I was going to say, I just had a quick look. He's only 24. He's played 115 games for Sunderland in 6 years. Like, that is
for a young player, that's a lot of football, and he's been fairly consistent. So
I'm a little bit puzzled that they let him go, but I mean, that's going to be a nice little storyline, I guess, when it comes to the Tyneside derby this year. So when do you see Sunderland finishing then? Obviously, last year they finished 14th after their late revival. Barini hasn't gone back to them yet, but that's a heavily rumoured one. I think he would be a big changer for them because I think he helped them a lot at the end of last year. Do you think Gus Poyet is going to build upon last year's success, or can you see maybe a similar scenario unfolding whereby they are going into the crunch time, really having to perform? You said to me the other day about Newcastle, like, where do you think they'll finish? It's impossible to predict. I think Sunderland are in quite a similar situation. They've been, for the last few years, they've been kind of a very, very difficult team to predict what they're going to do. And the last 3 months of the last season sort of just confirm that even more with the results that they pulled out, away at Chelsea. So I'm not really sure. You can, we've been through a few. Southampton, you could say they're going to be struggling next year after the losses. Stoke, fairly consistent. Sunderland are the team in this four that I think are quite difficult to really put a finger on where they're going to finish. Yeah. But they've made good signings, so, it looks fairly positive for them. It does indeed. Right, I think that wraps things up for today. We've covered the 4 teams. Of course, guys, you can follow us on iTunes and get the podcast early. If you're watching this on YouTube, we've actually got all the shows on iTunes already. So if you want to watch tomorrow's show a day early, it's available there. You can join our Fantasy Football League. There is a link down in the description of the video if you're watching on YouTube. Or, of course, if you're watching on iTunes or listening on iTunes or listening on your phone or on a train or on a bus. You can find the kind of pinned tweet at the top of our Twitter at ForTheFans Show, and it has all the details for our fantasy football. Of course, we're available on Facebook as well, ForTheFans Show. YouTube is ForTheFans Show. You guys know the drill by now. Keno, thank you so much for coming on today. We're actually going to have you on tomorrow for the next preview, so we'll chat to you then. Have you got any words of wisdom to leave the people with today?
No, all I would say is sign up to the fantasy football, because I still need to do that, so it'll be good.
Yeah, you've only got 2 days now if you're watching on YouTube, so get on it. Right, guys, we will see you tomorrow. We're out.